Welcome to Breakthrough Success. I am your host, Mark Roberti, CEO and founder of the Content Marketing Plaza, bringing you 3 new episodes each week where I and top-level guests teach you how to take your business to the next level and achieve your breakthrough. If your breakthrough is being successful in business and you want to talk with me, you can schedule a coaching call, markroberti.com/strategy. That will be in the show notes. But what we're going to talk about today is breakthroughs. They're not just about success in business. They're also about success in life. And sadly, there are people who they are successful in business, but they are not happy with themselves and happy with all the other parts of their life. So it's very important to have that sense of happiness, and that does fuel us to accomplish more work. So how can we as high achievers continue to be happy as we're working on our businesses, as the working sometimes pile up, because that's just one of the natures of being in business. So how can we have this reality? It is attainable. It is possible. Today's guest has a solution. He is an experienced general manager with a demonstrated history of working in the internet industry. Today's guest is skilled in areas like sales, P&L management, business development, operations management, and strategy. And his book, Happiness to the Power of Infinity, is a guide to sustainable happiness for high achievers. That book will be in the show notes. And today's guest who wrote that book, who is here with us today for episode 351 of Breakthrough Success, is none other than Rohit Sodha. Rohit, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mark. Fantastic to be here. Love your show. I've read your books. Love your cap. It looks great on you. And
Thank you.
That's what my book looks like for everybody to see.
Happiness to the Power of Infinity. I mean, I really love the idea of spreading the, how can we be happy? Because I feel like it's one of those questions that people know to ask themselves, but don't really think about it too much, don't really check in with themselves. And I feel like your book does a lot of really great work in that area. But I'm wondering if you could share about why you decided to write that book, because you have a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas. And I know you picked happiness, and obviously has a big meaning to you. So I'm wondering if you could expand on that a little bit.
Absolutely. It started off with, I think I can sort of summarize my journey. I was working for a global management consulting firm. I've done my MBA at Harvard Business School, worked for multiple global companies, did my own startup. And I think I could sort of rate myself as a fairly successful guy overall. Have a family, 2 kids, everything's going well. There was some zing missing in life, and I was wondering what that zing was. It got me to this topic of happiness. I started to read books out there, listen to podcasts, but there was really nothing that suited me. There are sort of books on two spectrums. The one story is, you stop asking for things, stop trying to achieving big goals, give up desires, become a monk, live your life, go to Tibet, settle down, and don't ask for anything. That'll make you very happy. The other extreme is forget everything else, just get your goals. And once you achieve your goals, that makes you happy. And none of these spectrums, I was happy with being on. I wanted something that worked for me, and that gave me the courage to write a book on happiness. It was a tough ask. I do a 60-hour week regularly in my job, and on top of that, to take on a project like that was a big ask. But I had the support of my family, my friends, my professors from Harvard Business School, my family members, and yes, happy moment for me. A lot of hard work over the last 2 years, but the book is now out. 3 weeks, 4.9 star rating on Amazon, 25 reviews in 2 weeks. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Wow. I mean, great job with the book. I mean, I know how much work it is to, sit down and write a book, especially one that has so many great insights as yours. I know one of the things in your book that you do, and I really love that it's implementable. And that's what I try to do with every episode of Breakthrough Success, give people insights that they can learn but also do. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit of the small changes that we can make to boost our happiness. I know you covered them in the book, so in a sense, give us a little bit of a teaser of what some of those changes are.
Sure. So I think one of the keys to success is essentially mental conditioning. If you think you will be successful, if you condition your mind to be successful, chances are you will be happy, you will be successful. And by being successful, you will be happy. And there's enough research in the sports area, in the business area, in entrepreneurship, the people who continuously condition their mind to be successful turn out to be successful. So one of the tips I'm giving in the book at the end is tell yourself, I've got this every day. So every time you go into a big public meeting, a client presentation, a job interview, a college interview, a sports competition, before you go in there, condition your mind, just 3 words, I've got this. And I think that helps a lot in bringing the best out in you. It gets you in the flow, you perform to your best ability, to better than what you've trained, you bring your best training with you on that event, and it just makes you successful.
And I really love that. It's just 3 words, something very simple for people to remember. I've got this. And if you perform better in areas like, in an interview or for a product launch, that's going to transfer to your happiness because you're happy with how you performed. You're happy with the work you put out. And I like earlier we had that distinction where there are some people who they want to be the monk and other people who it's like, all in on the business. So you do have to find some kind of middle for you. That's a lot of people anyway. But it's hard for us to get happier if we don't have a gauge of where we already are. So what's your advice for people who want to measure their happiness?
Absolutely. I think that is exactly why I did not like any book on happiness. I think no books actually give you a gauge which tell you how do you measure happiness. There's a multi-billion industry around fitness, which starts off by saying your weight is this much, your height is this much, your body mass index is this much, and let's start working backwards towards your target state of physical condition. But there's nothing like that in happiness. There are psychologists who've done a lot of research, but for a common man like me, those statistical models are way too complex. I don't have a simple tool where I can say, okay, am I happy today? What's my score out of 10? And that's exactly what I've built here. It's a very simple implementable model. You can put it up like a calendar on your living room. It starts off by saying, first, get to learn yourself. What has been your life journey? Mark Cuberti is a super successful guy. He's had a very, very different upbringing than Rohit Sodha, who's slightly less successful, aspiring to be as successful as Mark, but a very, very different upbringing. Your life journey, Mark, is very different than my life journey. What makes you happy does not probably make me happy. We have different things that drive us as human beings. So the first step is understand yourself, get to know yourself, track your life journey on a piece of paper. Take a big sheet of paper, A3 size, lay out your life, chart out your successes, your high points in life, your low points in life, who are the people that you like being with, and so on. And then a very simple model which says, these are the broad 7 areas where you can sort of classify happiness into. It's health, relationships, career or profession, wealth, sexual happiness, hobbies, spirituality, and others. And around these 8 areas, how would you score yourself on these 8 areas? And for you, some of these areas may matter more than the other ones. So you have a weighted average scale, which is fairly easy for people to calculate and run with.
And I love how you mentioned those different areas because I feel like a lot of people, they put happiness or they put success also under one umbrella where it's like you look at your life overall and you just guess like, successful business, successful life. Like that's how a lot of people put it. But I mean, there are people who they have the golden handcuffs. They are making like high 6-figure incomes, but they're never home. So
Exactly.
Career is just one of those areas. I mean, there's just certainly a lot more to it than that.
Absolutely. I've written about this in the book. What happens in our life is that you have these 8 areas, but one area tends to sort of take a much higher attention at a specific point in time in our lives. When we get old, health suddenly becomes much more important than everything else. And therefore, whether you are physically happy or not decides your overall well-being in life. And the advice I'm giving people is do not allow one area of your life to actually spoil the other 6 areas. If you get a promotion, if you become a CEO, but your wife divorces you on the same day, would you really be happy? Would you call that true success?
No.
And the other thing is, people often say, I will be happy when I'm successful. But I break that up. I say, you will be successful only when you're happy, because success without happiness is not sustainable. You cannot do a job which kills you, which kills your relationships. You don't have time for your family. It doesn't make you happy. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah, that is a really great point. And like one of the things about business, I mean, I love setting big goals for myself, and I feel like there are a lot of people listening who do. Yeah. But part of the question you want to ask yourself, like, is it necessary really for me to be hitting this goal? I mean, some people, they just naturally raise their goals because it gives them something new and more exciting to do. But
sure.
Like, do I really need to be making $1 billion or something like that, or like $1 million a month, like still high up there, but definitely more reachable? Like, do I really need to be doing that to support the lifestyle? So it's something to think about, like how much of each of those 7 areas do you need to dip into where the overall average, is you're feeling pretty happy about yourself. Because some people, they're making like $1 million a year. They put in the work to make 5, but then that extra time required them to make a lot of sacrifices that, if you look at the end, for some of them weren't worth it. Now, some people, they are able to go from 1 to 5 million and even more than that, still live the happy life. But it's a different case for each person. But you really want to see how much you want to dip into each of those 7 areas to feel really happy with yourself.
Exactly. I'll give you a very interesting example. Warren Buffett, right? One of the richest, most admired people in the world. Yeah. And if you ask him what makes him happy, he says, well, sitting on my couch, watching telly, eating popcorn. And that doesn't cost a lot of money. And he's one of the richest people in the world. And he's pledged a lot of his wealth to good causes, which we all appreciate. So essentially, earning money didn't actually make him happy. Yeah. What makes him happy are the small things in life, eating popcorn while watching telly.
Yeah, money just gives you choices.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you choices. And I talk about that. I say, to be happy, become wealthy. Most of the books around happiness say, oh, give up trying to be wealthy. Money doesn't bring happiness. I say, that's not completely true. Till the time you have the ability to exercise choices in your life, be it about sending your kids to private school, taking that nice vacation to unwind for a while, pursuing some sports as hobbies, golf, for example, or other more expensive hobbies. If that makes you happy, then please earn money so that you can become happy.
Yeah, I mean, like it's math, like for the money part. I mean, obviously there are other areas, but for money, it's just like, how much are you making? What's your cost of living? What's the extra expenses? That's all the math you really need to know to make sure you're making enough and obviously you want to have spare left over. But I mean, for some people, like the amount you dive deep into your career, it's different based on who you are and what you want from your life. So definitely something to think about, which always raise the bar higher, but it is good to think about that math to know where exactly we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know you mentioned Warren Buffett. One interesting thing about him, he made 99% of his wealth after his 50th birthday. So for people who are thinking like maybe like I'm starting late in the game, there's still plenty of opportunity that with the compound effect in play also. So definitely really great stuff of focusing on those 7 areas. But happiness, it just means so many different things to so many different people. Like my version of happiness, as you hinted earlier, is different from your version. So how can we get better at defining what happiness is to us?
Yeah, I think it essentially, like I said, varies from person to person. You have to find what makes you happy. If you look at these 7 areas, health, relationships, career, wealth, sex, hobbies, spirituality, and others, you can pretty much say, well, I want to sort of index higher on career and relationships. I want to index a little bit lower on health. So that means I will have 3-4 years of my life where I don't want to work out. I'm young, I'm healthy. And once I achieve my goals over the next 3 or 4 years, I want to index heavily on hobbies and spirituality. I have $1 billion in my bank. I want to go and settle down in Tibet, lead a carbon neutral life, pursue spirituality, and do nothing else. That is what's going to make me happy. And this is what I say. Happiness also changes with time. It's not It's not a constant. What makes you happy today will not make you happy tomorrow. Our needs are evolving. As human beings, we are evolving. And there are different things that will make us happy in different walks of life.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating point. I don't think it's something we think about as much, where happiness does change over time, where you reach these new milestones as life becomes different, your happiness and what that comprises of changes. But if you keep track of it, as in like you just keep asking yourself, like, what's happiness to me? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to be a different answer, but you got to know what that answer is. And that's going to help you live life the way that you should be living it, which could be entirely different from the way like some successful guru lives their life and tells you
Absolutely.
What they're doing.
The interesting thing is, today in the paid media world, our media over-indexes on rich people. Media has created this notion that rich people are very happy people. But if you really study their personal lives deeply, you will see that they're also normal human beings. They're flawed in many ways. They don't have it all in all areas of life. I mentioned Steve Jobs in my book a little bit, and of course he's a corporate guru. All of us admire him, but he didn't live a very long life. Yeah, I mean, his relationship with his daughter was strained, to use a very polite word, and his daughter has written a book about it. So of course he also didn't get everything in life. So I also talk about. So one of my last quotes in the book is, nobody gets everything in life. Appreciate what you have. I have this notion that you are given a certain total number of points, which you can spread around these sort of 8 areas of life. And if you over-index in one, the balance goes away from the others. And I think it's pretty much how it has been. If you look at all global celebrities, very successful people, they are all over-indexed on a couple of areas, but under-indexed in the other areas. And that's also a notion that I'm trying to profess in this book.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I definitely see it, because there are a lot of people who think if I just had money, I'd be happy. But money doesn't change you into a superhuman. I mean, you're still human. You still have emotions. You still have heartbreak. You still have struggle, all that stuff. Again, it's just one of those 7 areas. It's great to make money, make as much of it as you can. But remember, that's just one of the areas of happiness. There are 6 more that we certainly have to address. And one of the things that's going to help us hit on all those different areas is developing different habits that guide us. Habits really are the make or break for success, something I've mentioned quite a few times on Breakthrough Success. So Rohit, I'm wondering if you could share with us, what are some of your habits that you would say are essential for your, not just success, but also overall happiness?
Absolutely. It's a very, very good question, and it's something that I ask myself every day. What is it that I'm doing right, and what is it that I can further improve in my life? I think there's 3 things that I try and do. The first is I try and get adequate rest. So I'm not the one who sleeps 3 or 4 hours a day and says that's enough. I need my sort of beauty sleep, between 7 and 8.5 hours. I need that time to sort of rest, recuperate, get my body ready, get my mind ready. The second thing I do is I try and harmonize my work and life schedule. So I'm not a morning person. A lot of people are morning people. They wake up at 4, they're in the office at 5:30, and they're sort of really gunning for it. I'm more of an evening person. The best of my mind works the best late in the evening. That's probably why I scheduled this podcast with you late in the evening. So that's the other thing. A third thing is that I realized in my life that I was not doing a good job of managing toxic people. I had toxic people around me, who I was not neutralizing. So the third active action I've started to take as I've been writing this book is to neutralize toxic people. The fourth thing is around technology. So I love technology. I work for a technology company. I think it's a fantastic enabler, but I think technology is a great servant, but the moment it becomes a master, it kills you. So an overload of technology is something that all of us have to sort of watch out for. So these 4 areas, summarizing again: get adequate rest, harmonize your work and your body rhythm. Third, neutralize toxic people. And fourth, make technology your slave, not your master.
Wow, really great habits right there. I could go into all of those and just elaborate even more. One thing I will say though is that yesterday, at time of recording yesterday, like I was not like in the mood to be creating video content all day, but
Yeah,
then it hit me at like 11 p.m. and into midnight. So
yeah,
some people say like, wake up early, beat the sun. But if you're more productive at 11 p.m. than you are at 11 a.m., you should be up at that time doing work. Now, my schedule changes. Like right now, I'm in summer mode. When school
yeah,
comes around again, 11 a.m. is going to go away, like for
yeah.
work purposes. But it's good to think about when you're more productive. And just remember that time is just a concept. So you don't have to be up at certain times because everyone else is up and doing certain things because everyone else is at certain times of day.
Yeah. A very interesting point you mentioned, Mark, about time. While doing my research, I was researching different cultures around the world and how they profess happiness and how should people be happy. And of course, in our modern lives, we are governed by our calendar. You're always running to chase your calendar. We basically schedule even 5-minute slots these days, forget half an hour and hourly slots. And in the Turkish culture, in Turkey, they have this concept of keyif, spelled Keyif, which essentially means just doing nothing. You just sit there, enjoying a coffee, having the sun in your face, enjoying basically doing nothing. And in English slang, you would call it chilling, but a lot of us basically think that chilling is wasting time. But it's useful to recuperate. It's a useful break. And I really recommend that people who work nonstop, 12, 14 hours a day, they really take breaks during the day and just practice kayif, do nothing.
Yeah, that's certainly a great point. I mean, like when you look at me or someone else online and it looks like we're just grinding 24/7, that's just because we're scheduling content and we're putting it out, like Breakthrough Success, for instance, the radio 1 episode a week, the podcast 3 episodes a week. I do a bunch of other stuff, but there are some days where I am absolutely grinding and other days where I'm laying off a little bit because you need to have that balance. The balance is different for you. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, he can work like 18 hours, be fine, and take off on the weekends because that's one of the things that he mentions. And he has like he's very committed to the vacation also and just spending that time vacationing. So it's tempting to just look at the grind and think that's what everyone's doing 24/7, but you need to have those breaks in there to refuel and build up on your happiness also.
Yeah. Another tip I have sort of in my book for people is, we're living in a world where it's all about us. It's all about me. It's all about, I want this and I want that and I want to do this. And I talk about sort of giving, I talk about gratitude. I talk about how if you make the smallest of favors for others, it changes their day. It brings a smile on their face and that makes you happy in turn. So one of the tips I'm giving is do good for others, especially the needy, and not just doing good by throwing money. I think we live in a world where we can swipe an app and you transfer money to people across the continent who are in need of help. I think the important part is sort of to go out there, show support, actively get engaged in these causes, and drive real change. It will really make you happy when you do good for others.
Well, that's a really great insight. I mean, like just being there, helping people certainly makes a big difference, whether it's through your content, but you want to have that person to person eventually because that makes a big difference. Another tip that I will recommend for everyone listening or watching, if you're on the YouTube channel, is get your copy of Rohit's book, Happiness to the Power of Infinity. That will be in the show notes, marketberry.com/E351. So we've talked about your book for a while, but chances are there are a few other places where we can see your work. So, what are some of the places we can just continue following you on your journey?
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and my handles we'll post on the video there. People can follow me. I upload content regularly. I do podcasts, I do interviews, I do personal counseling sessions, and in general, my calendar is fairly free. I try and practice kayif. I try and make myself accessible to people. And yes, my mission is to spread the word of happiness. My research also says that when you are happy, there's a 25% chance that people around you feel happier as well. So it's a network effect. It's a very popular term in the tech sector. It is the network effect.
Rohit, thank you for sharing a place where you can continue to follow your work and sharing all of your great insights with us in this episode. It was such a pleasure to have you on Breakthrough Success.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate being here. That's what the book looks like. Encourage people to go out there and buy the copy. Thank you very much.